Under the grey morning sky of Tehran, cameras roll as Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi takes the podium on state television. Behind him, the emblem of the Islamic Republic glints under studio lights. The tone is restrained, but the message unmistakable. Iran sees no reason to resume nuclear talks with European countries, declares Araghchi in Persian, his words carried live across the nation. With that short statement, he ends weeks of speculation about whether Tehran might return to the negotiating table with Europe's so-called E3, France, Germany and the United Kingdom. For diplomats in Brussels and Vienna, the sentence lands like a cold gust across an already frozen channel of communication. 2 years after the collapse of indirect talks in Vienna, Iran's nuclear program has advanced far beyond the limits once agreed under the 2015 Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. Centrifuges now spin at full speed in Natanz and Fordo. Inspectors from the International Atomic Energy Agency report enrichment levels exceeding 60%, dangerously close to weapons grade. European governments, alarmed by satellite imagery and intelligence leaks, have expressed a determination to restart talks. But Tehran's message today is that determination on the European side no longer carries weight. To Araghchi, those doors closed when Europe failed to shield Iran from American sanctions reimposed after Washington's withdrawal from the deal. In recent months, Paris, London and Berlin have floated new proposals, softer timelines, limited sanctions relief and a phased return to compliance. Yet within Iran's power structure, hardliners view such overtures as empty gestures. Why, Araghchi asks indirectly, should Iran negotiate with countries that could not honour their own commitments? The statement mirrors a broader narrative promoted by state media that the West's credibility is in tatters. At the Foreign Ministry press hall, journalists scribble notes as the minister insists that Tehran's nuclear policy is now sovereign, independent and non-negotiable under pressure. Since 2023, Iran has sought new partners, Russia, China and the Eurasian Economic Union, signing deals that quietly bypass Western oversight. Beijing's Energy for Infrastructure Pact and Moscow's military technical cooperation have helped Tehran weather sanctions and maintain its nuclear leverage. By declaring no reason to resume talks, Iran signals that it no longer depends on European channels to secure economic survival. Instead, it projects confidence, uranium stockpiles as bargaining chips, missile programs as deterrence, and regional influence as insurance. Analysts in Vienna describe this as Iran's post-diplomacy doctrine: engagement without compromise, negotiation only on its own terms. Within hours of the broadcast, the E3 issued a joint statement from Brussels affirming their determination to restart negotiations. Diplomats privately acknowledge, however, that the JCPOA framework is barely alive. In Paris, the Foreign Ministry expresses deep regret and urges Iran to return to the path of dialogue. London calls Araghchi's remarks a missed opportunity. Berlin says it remains ready for talks without preconditions. Yet in Tehran, state television frames these reactions as signs of Western desperation. Commentators ask why Europe insists on dialogue while continuing to sanction Iranian officials and defense companies. Inside Iran, Araghchi's statement plays to a domestic audience long accustomed to defiance. On social media platforms still operational inside the country, hashtags meaning nuclear independence trend rapidly. Analysts note that the timing of this message, October 2025, is no coincidence. It comes amid rumours of a new US administration's Middle East strategy and ongoing negotiations over sanctions on Iranian oil. By closing the door to Europe, Tehran positions itself as resistant to Western pressure and responsive only to respect. Economically, the decision risks further isolation, but politically, it serves to rally nationalist sentiment and reassert the Foreign Ministry's alignment with the Supreme National Security Council's harder line. Beyond Tehran, regional capitals watch closely. In Jerusalem, officials cite Araghchi's remarks as proof that Iran is buying time to build a bomb. Riyadh and Abu Dhabi urge Washington to tighten sanctions and bolster missile defense in the Gulf. Meanwhile, Russia and China welcome Iran's stance, describing it as a reaction to Western hypocrisy. For Moscow, it diverts attention from its own nuclear cooperation projects. For Beijing, it creates a strategic ally in energy and non-Western trade routes. International watchdogs fear that without renewed talks, the last remnants of IAEA inspection access could collapse. A European analyst tells that Iran is 2 to 3 technical steps away from weaponization. US officials call for an emergency UN Security Council session, but China and Russia are unlikely to back any new sanctions. The world is again on the edge of a familiar nuclear paradox: deterrence as defense, negotiation as weakness. Back on Tehran television, Araghchi's brief remark loops through the night's broadcast. 9 seconds of speech carried across a region already tense with war and sanctions. 9 seconds that echo louder than hours of diplomatic briefings. In Tehran's measured language, silence can be policy, and policy a warning to the world.